I think it was Bob Marley that said that people today use well-intended people rather than cherish them. And I think the Stoics, Stoicism, read Marcus Aurelius, the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius from 2,000 years ago. And the point I'm going to go into about Stoicism is everything has been misinterpreted throughout history. Last week we said that there are two types of people. History can be read through that vein. There are spiritual people and people that are not spiritual. The spiritual people live in otherworldly wonder. It's really, really beautiful. Doesn't mean they don't go through the same tragedies as everyone else in the world. They do that voluntarily. It's because it's who you are, and you can never quite believe. You can't believe ever the insanity of this world. We call it Satan's casino. It's a temptation. The Garden of Eden, the nakedness is there is no physical body. There is nothing solid in your spiritual consciousness. So it's Stoicism with Marcus Aurelius during that time. I'm simply saying because we think we have 5 major religions, and there's always been a mystical vein throughout all history. It's like you're looking for gold out there in the large rocks and so forth. You'll find that mother lode in the middle, and that's always existed. And the different striations of gold you can find out, the crystal, the quartz, whatever, represent the different tragedies we as spiritual beings always go through compassionately and voluntarily. We don't fight it. And that's the whole idea of Stoicism, no matter what happens. My buddy Aaron, the kindest, gentlest man I ever met, and he's a real hero on the streets. Do you know what I'm saying? But he doesn't react, doesn't relate to it, he just does because it's the right thing. And that's what Stoicism was all about. That's what Christianity, Judaism, all the religions of the world are about doing the right thing no matter what. Cause no harm, right? Transcendent of that, the general idea and scope and understanding of religion in its daily sense, which is from dawn to dawn. It's not, you don't go to church on a Sunday morning or any morning. You are in the church. It is from dawn to dawn. It's wonderful to know God. It's wonderful to know you. So the Stoics, the great heroes of myth and legend and the Roman Empire, were men and women that didn't react or relate to the absurdities and the insanities of daily life and living, whether on the battlefield or the home front. If you're spiritual, and you live in another land at another time, and not off in the distance at the end of time, but timeless. So your day is interspersed with simple and great joys that you really can't describe to other people, because people in the world who have a worldly consciousness cannot possibly hear you. You know how we all have to prove ourselves every day, every time we walk into a different room or space or a conversation with someone that's not spiritual. You have to begin from day one and explain why you exist. I hope you all understand that, because you all understand that. There's nothing to prove when you're spiritual, but you're very gifted with the ability to hear, to listen, to address the pains and traumas and tragedies of everyday living for other people. And though no one will ever understand it, you get nothing out of it. In the material sense, you get nothing. Now and then you get a little thank you card, and that's about it. And yet you never think about that. That's not what you want. All you think about is finding a way to raising others up to this lightness, this ease, this joy, this serenity. This place that we're describing is divinity. It's our natural state. God looks on us with the same humility and kindness and depth of bearing that we look on God. And we're not yelling and cursing God for the absurdity of our life. We're seeking for that joy, that ecstasy that we were born with, and it never returns until that moment that we arrive at the place the Stoics knew. Not reacting, relating, or giving to the world, no matter what the tragedy is, anything. You don't react to it. Me, as a science of spirituality, have worked out many different ways of achieving these states of consciousness. And they're all effective. The point I want to make with that is you do not have to go through a war zone, a family disaster, anything, to understand what the Stoics were pointing at. It's not a subliminal space, it's a very conscious entitlement we all have as spiritual presences, as reflections of the Almighty. We are spiritual beings. The world is a lost plane of existence. It is a hell, it's Satan's casino. So many different words. The idea of temptation. And all these things that come at one are temptations, no matter what the threat is, no matter what the squirmy reality is. We all know what that means. If you're very, very quiet inside and give it nothing, you'll see God, you'll see eternity. You understand there's nothing wrong. You'll understand that the world is what in Sanskrit is going to be called Maya, the illusion. Throughout the East, that's the considered term of it, and every mystic in the world has come to that. It's not really here. When you feel the joy and the simplicity and the misty kind of teary-eyed purity and beauty of God and those angelic presences that move through us through the day and through the evening hours, then you'll know that this is not really real. But it will come at you and come after you like like the insane thing that it is. If we give it nothing. Like all the great breathing exercise in the world, meditations, prayers, all the healers have done and known. Like my friend Camille just walks in a room and things become quiet. Because she's spiritual, completely unconscious of it, but a whole room becomes quiet because someone is quiet. And that's magic, and that's God, and everything else is wrong. Everything. If you know that and you live that, then it's not something to aspire to, then whatever you come in contact with, you're always giving of yourself, giving of yourself, giving of yourself, and it always opens up within you in the right way for the right circumstance, the next person, the next experience. It will always be there. God is always here. God is an infinite kindness. And that's the beginning of knowing God. And that's the beginning of knowing you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not your problems or the solution to your problems. You're made of light and air and kindness and a kind of depth and intelligence that mortals cannot see. Again, there's always been two types of people, the spiritual and the material. And if you're spiritual, you're always fighting to reach in to the lives of the material person to find that one who is worthy of the light. And you will die for that person. Literally. We all know what that means. In the same way you die for your child, a spiritual person will die for just about anyone. And there's some we can just let that happen. Not with any joy or pleasure or any feeling. It's just, that's what that is. So at the end of time, that'll be just what that is. If you don't want to lighten your load, and just be kind and decent and cherish the well-intended person, then there's no reason for you to exist. It means your inner core is connected to that thing we called Satan, Mephistopheles, all these terrible names, the sociopath, the control freak, you know, all those worldly aphorisms, whatever. It's like in India they say, when a pickpocket sees a saint, he only sees his pockets. And So we get light, we don't react, we all know it's the end of times, everything is horrible. Socio-political atmosphere in the world has never been like it is. Everything will fold in on itself. But that's the way the world has always been. It's never been other. So we don't have to hang on a cross. We do have to understand that there is a God. And God actually is God. And we are God's presence, God's emanation in this world. But we're not here. And as soon as we understand we're not here, although we gave ourselves to this, we are divine presences. And that doesn't mean I'm equal to God or all that religious mumbo jumbo. It's just a being nothing. There's nothing to even aspire to. Just appreciate. Someone appreciates a great work of art, or a love, a beautiful being like Camille, then you become what you appreciate, what you love. You become, or you are that. So we have to appreciate one another, back each other up prayerfully, mindfully, as they say. Just being alive without any fear. This can be. There's no reason to fight, to run, even to care, though we care like a mom with her newborn. We literally don't. We all care for what we love, whom we love, and it's quite a wonderful place to be. The point of today's message is we don't have to leave that place. And there's no urgency with that love. We're not running out to protect them on the streets. It's just, it's an isness, as the sound as the ocean floor. It's just wonderful to be close to God, to be close to you, to be close to knowing that there's no reason to run or hide ever again. There is a God. We are God's reflection. And the God, we are God. All of us in this room have had these great transcendent spiritual experiences in our life, mystical sense, the sense of being larger in our body, and this openness that never ends, with a simple, quiet joy through it. That we've all had that. The point of today is that there's no reason to not be there, ever. You simply have to do what God does. Give yourself away. Don't hold on to anything. Don't react to anything. Listen to other people. Listen. Be there for them. My buddy Aaron does that, and he's the toughest guy I know, and he's just a good person. And that affords you the capacity to do the right thing in the next moment without being stuck emotionally. So you practice these meditation techniques. We talked about through these classes, there are thousands of spiritual enhancement techniques, and they all work if taken to fruition. Do 2 or 3 of them every day that you like, that you enjoy, or create your own. I know when I first sat with Dr. Sho from Korea, he was the dean of a Buddhist college and a world revered Zen master, and my buddy John Buckspace, Dr. Buckspace from Los Angeles. At Parkinson, Wilkinson, he started the Wilkinson School down here. We've only seen each other once in 50 years, but we're all near each other. And it's quite magical to know people in that sense, in a spiritual sense. And you know you're not alone. And when you run into people like that, or I run into my friend Vental Rinpoche, it's like, as much as we love each other, there's nothing to say to each other, nothing to do, nothing to have, nothing to hold dear. It's just an isness. You're not here. And that's the real message of religion, of spirituality, of God. Don't react to anything here. It's not here. And if enough of us do this in the near future, and enough of us will do this in the near future, this won't be here. This tragedy No more pain. No more tears. Remember from Revelation? Well, that sense is held in all the great religions. Every spiritual group in the world touches on it and knows it and feels it. And as soon as you do what the Stoics do and just give up fighting any of it, this openness that we call God will give us the presence of mind, the strength, whatever we need to move forward and to lift those around us out from the fires of disbelief and faithlessness. You've done nothing wrong. You are completely innocent. It's like that great actor in The Green Mile said, they kills you every day, boss. They kills you with your own love. Two little girls had to witness against each other or something because out of love they wanted to protect each other. So the world, as long as there's two people in the world, there will be war. As long as two people think they are a physical body. That's the tragedy of the human predicament. We are a spirit, we are a soul. That's why we lose each other in love. That's why I have a bunch of friends with piles of money the size of buildings, and they want to give away and do, and they want to, no, just give it all away. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm not saying you have to do anything rash. What I'm saying is this understanding has to permeate our entire atmosphere, and it will be our entire atmosphere. There is a God. Seek Him. He seeks us. I think Carl Jung said in Memories, Dreams, and Reflections that even God seeks His own. Does that make sense? We all know somebody that's demonic, that's witch-like, that just saps the purity of our life and causes things, we can't fight it. And I'm saying if we do fight it, by not giving it anything, you'll look right through it and it will die on the spot. I'm moved to say this, but I've fought more demons and beings all over the world and been attacked endlessly, sometimes daily, by vicious beings. They're all there. And the point is, if you don't give it anything, it is nothing. You are everything. The quiet part in the center of your heart, that's God. When I say you're a reflection of God, I mean you are a reflection of God. And when you have this experience called illumination, you'll feel yourself as infinite, and this infinitesimal part of us that's in this world, it'll be as though it never was, because it never was. To make it very clear, as divine presences, as part of divinity, each of us in our own way felt we were infinite presences, and we still are. We felt there was something out of whack somewhere in the universe, and we dropped into this plane of being. It's called birth. And then you have a certain trajectory where you incarnate several different times to figure out what this is, because it's so horrible. And when you do, you have the ability to communicate with earthlings and help walk them out of the fires of hell, which the world is. It's just symbolic, just a poetic way of stating it. So when you don't give it anything, you practice the presence, you quiet the breathing, whatever ways you want to do it. But everyone in this room has felt God on God's own terms, so we're all aware that this presence we're describing today does exist. And I'm simply saying, it's here, it's now, it's every moment. Fight the good fight for a few months, and that's all it will ever take. You're just reminding yourself why you came here. You've done this trajectory, you've learned in a few incarnations what the world is about, and now you can battle it and pull your friends and loved ones out from the insanity. There's no good way of saying it. We're high rollers in a low rent neighborhood. You are a divine being. You are holy. And holiness is natural. To feel the joy that Aaron feels and that Camille represents and inspires in everyone is just for being very quiet inside. There is nothing else. That's the goal of humanity. That's all there ever is being a good person. And most people throughout history and literature, being a good person is next to impossible. You're always going to get railroaded some way. But if you take it to the point of that the Stoics discussed, that Jesus Christ represented, or Moses, or whoever around the world, all the great spiritual beings and saints we're aware of, if you extrapolate out your own part in divinity, it'll all be gone. This is so momentary. I forget what the story was. It was something where a bird going through a church steeple or through the top of two windows of the church, and it went through from one side to the other, and that's like went in one window and out the other, and that's what, like, and the Buddha said that life is like a bubble in a stream or a flash of lightning in a sky. And there was a lifetime. It goes that quick. And when you're in this transcendent state, that's the way it is. There's no time or duration or succession of time and events. It just is. Einstein proved it because he was a mystic at heart. I personally understand exactly what he went for, why he did what he did, and there was a mystical spiritual reason and a religious reason in what he did. And he proved the fact that time doesn't exist. So in consciousness, it also does not exist. And your very time is the outlaw of the universe of good. Again, in Revelation said that there be time no longer, that the mystery of God should be finished. It's talking about a time like this, and that whether the Stoics or the Christians or the Jews or anyone and everyone in the world who was touched of God, the anointed, and it's not something the anointed, they're special. If you're special, if you are that, then you're simply like Brother Lawrence or Saint Teresa or Saint Catherine. You're nobody. And when you know God, when you're nobody, God is looking out from your eyes. It's not nothing. It's not humiliation. It's humility. It's endlessly powerful to be nobody. You'll accomplish all your aims, all your goals. And that's what we're talking about today. To look at God as God looks at us, with a mother's love. It's quite wonderful to be in this condition called illumination. And very few people in the world really want it. And that's why we started out with Bob Marley's quote that good people are used rather than cherished. It's been said throughout history in so many ways, and it's true. So when you meet someone decent, wonderful, like Gabrielle or Camille or Ingrid or Engard, they're wonderful human beings, and I cherish you. I cherish all human beings in the world. Excuse me for making this personal, but this is the way we're all to feel for one another. And if we do, then this field of light that surrounds each spiritual person will become like the sun itself. The real you is the spiritual sun itself. We shake loose the shackles of this earth, this conditioned experience we have, and we're free. It's like free your mind and the rest will follow. There is a God. There is a holiness that permeates the universe. And you are that. God gives God's self away 24 hours a day forever. And when you step away from the world consciousness through Stoicism, through Christianity, through whatever, meditation. It's just, the world never was in that moment. It's called illumination, enlightenment, in the scripture, salvation, which means saving your soul, which is the illumined experience. It's not something you drag someone out of a bar to save their soul. It's so much more precious and delicate. There's nothing wrong with any of us. And like Camus said it's we're all guilty without wanting to be, and innocent without knowing. The spiritual point is the world is a consciousness that's an illusion, and if we don't give it anything, no matter how drastic the circumstance might be, like my buddy here sees things every day that I never want to see, and comes up clean. It's quite remarkable to be a good person in a bad world. Could be termed a miracle. Now that I spent time doing that, let's go into one of these many, many spiritual expressions of disciplining ourselves. I'm going to count back. I'm going to do the time machine. When I was in Tibet with my friends, the lamas, and Frida Beatty, the abbotess and translator for Karmapa, the Karmapa. And there was something called the time machine mandala, the time machine meditation. We're going to do that now. It's simply, I'm going to count back from 100. We're simplifying it, but it will be the same thing. It doesn't matter if you do it, spend 10 days doing it, or count back from 100 to 90. We're going to do it. We're going to decondition our whole lifetime. Anything that tempted us, that took us away from our path, will evaporate at 90. All the conditioned experiences that I've talked about for this half hour will disappear the time we go from 100 to 90, because we're moving into a timeless state where we'll visualize and experience everything that was said for this last half hour. All the conditioning we had from birth to the present, from being in this world, and it's been very rough because everyone in this room is incredibly sensitive. And they've laid siege on us 24 hours a day, haven't they? They're horrible, aren't they? It's demonic, isn't it? You don't deserve it. So let's clear the slate and then move to the rest of our life, pulling our friends and loved ones out from the fires, back into Him, whose we are. We let go of all of our conditioning. We kind of look at each other, like look at throughout our other life like this, one of those out-of-body experiences, but it'll be very mystical. At 90, we'll let go of all the tragedy and horror of our life. Not by fighting it, by simply looking at it and letting it go. And as we're doing that, we're becoming a larger part of God's presence, which is joy, ecstasy, and infinite awareness and intelligence. And we're quite intelligent, God knows. That said, in reaction to the fact that the world always makes you less than what you are. At 90, all of our conditioning is lifted. We understand what we've learned, and we just exist as part of heaven. That place some people think you go to after death. We're there at 90. We're turning back the clock to the place before time, and will reside there forever. Just the breathing, peace at 90. 99. 98. 97. 96. We're simply appreciating the purity and beauty of God's presence with us. That presence is our real self and our body. We're made of light and air and Godness. Isn't that wonderful? We're free at 90. 96. 95. 94. 93. We just appreciate the lightness between all of our perceptions. At 90, we are the lightness. 93. 92. 91. 90. 'Thank you. We're going to move down from 90 to 80, at which time we're going to wake up one morning 3 months in the future, after having practiced a short period of prayer, meditation, reflection, contemplation, whatever, reading a holy book, lighting a candle. Do something every day, approximately the same time if we can, and it'll just help. There'll be a guiding star. It'll get us back to where we began before time, with God, before our experience in this dastardly place. 3 months in the future, we wake up having truly reminded ourselves of our eternal place in divinity. Let's see what that morning is like. We're there at 80. Thank you for listening. '90. 89. 88. 87. 86. 85. 84. 83. 82. 81. 80. 'Thank you. It's as though everything escapes us, all of our lesser perception of reality. It's the same as a dream where something strange happens. If you prepare yourself before you go to sleep that you're not going to wake up during your dreams. You'll be conscious of them. You can change them. But the point is, that's an infinitesimal part of our consciousness. But if you do these things, you can change your life. Your life is identical to a bad dream. Not that there aren't beautiful little areas in it, but every spiritual being knows exactly what's just said. We're not meant to take it any longer. We're taking it voluntarily out of compassion, empathy for the whole world. We arrived in this plane of being to heal it, never knowing how really strange it is. There is no other place in the universe where violence or vileness exists, except in this atmosphere. And when we leave it be, it will not be. When we don't react to it, don't give ourselves to it, there'll always be a way to heal anything and everything. These are not just words. There is a God. You're God's own. You did something so heroic, there are no words. And now we're being called back home. And we go there by a whisper and a prayer, because you are a whisper and a prayer. You are a holiness and a decency and a kindness and a truth and an intelligence and awareness. You're good, you're powerful, you're brave. You're a wonder and a dream. That's who you are to God, no matter what happened in our lifetime. And like he said, be whole. Whatever you need, whatever you want, whatever you desire, whatever's right for you, will come to you. This day, this hour, and this night. God bless your holiness, your decency, your purity, your resilience, and your availability to do the right thing all your life, haven't you? And we're trashed on all sides, aren't we? And if we understand what's said this morning, like the Stoics did, it's not grinning and bearing all the pain, it's living past or through the pain. You are a divine presence. You're holy and true. It's a pleasure to know you. Thank you for listening. Thank you.